project, which will be after the break. Here is your midterm project. We don't have a midterm exam, we have a midterm project, even better than a midterm exam. The project used to be called a e-card. I don't know if you've seen the other e-cards that has been distributed before. But it's a project that takes all the things you've learned and put it all together to make interactive environments. But this time, we're not doing an e-card anymore. We're going to change it up a little bit. And we're going to do a game, company branding advertisement, which is, the idea is that you're going to make an interactive branding advertisement that will have at minimum 5 interactions on there. And here are the steps if you don't know how to approach it or start. I've laid out some steps so that you can go by them. You don't have to follow these steps, but you do have to submit things regarding some of them. But you don't have to follow these steps. You have your own work habits that you go by that works for you, then you can go for that. But if you don't know where to start or how to start, these are my suggested steps. And these will all be on D2L. The first step is to research. Think of the brand and 10 items that you're going to want to advertise through the brand, both text or images. So for example, you might go Nike shoes, whatever, right? And you have 10 shoes that you want to advertise for that brand. Then that would be an item that you would go for. Step two is to design the environment. What is the environment that you're going for? So maybe if you're really doing Nike shoes, your environment is a locker room or something like that. And that's how you're going to advertise through scripting interactions on this item. And this is just the design. So just sketch it out. Sketch out what your environment's going to look like. It can be paper sketches. It can be any kind. Just sketch it out. The third part is the interaction design. Think about what's going to be on the environment and what can be interacted with. And how those interaction is going to change up the environment itself. Again, sketch it out. So you have an idea of all the objects on the screen. Because after you have an idea of all the objects on the screen, you can create the object with Illustrator and SVGs and have them interactable later on. Now that you have your SVG files, you can implement them. The first part of implementation is just the HTML and CSS, just to get the initial parts of your environment in. Then the second part of implementation is, now that you have your HTML and CSS, you can put your script inside to make the item interactable. And you'll use all the skills that you've learned to show these items on the screen. And then afterwards, you can test it, debug it, redesign some stuff, re-put some stuff until to a liking of your choice, right, at the end. And going to be marked based on having all these items in here, which is, did you research? So you have to document all of this. Did you do the design draft? Did you do the SVGs? Did you do the implementations properly? And extra Easter egg interactions, meaning outside the 10 items you're trying to advertise, maybe there's some extra stuff in there that it's just for the fun of it, right? Maybe you're going to shuffle all the shoes around just for fun. I don't know. Some kind of Easter egg that you feel like it helps the brand. And then, did you host it up online afterwards? So that is the midterm project. We can make it due next week if you want, but I'm sure that's not what you want. So there's 3 choices. I'll tell you the pros and cons. And it's a combined vote between the other class and this class. I forgot to ask the other class, but I guess I'll make the votes up on D2L later on. So you can either choose to have it due before the break, during the break, or after the break. And I will tell you what the pros and cons are. Before the break, you'll have the break. During the break, you have a horrible break. After the break, you have a great break, but your assessment will be coming up at the same time. So you have more to do. So you can say after the break, I'll just discipline myself to make it before the break. It's a discipline matter for you. Do you want me to discipline you, or do you want to discipline yourself? So you can think about that, and I'll make a poll on D2L, I guess, later today and whatnot. Of course, this project, there's two objectives to it. The first objective, again, is to get you to start building on your own without just looking at what I'm doing and following guidelines that you can start and finish on your own, just like the assessments. And the second part of it is a portfolio piece. It's a big one. Because if you go to a company and you realize you can't do crap, at the very least, you can say that I can brand your company properly. I can help you make interactive advertisements. So this is this portfolio piece is used a lot in past cohorts job, what's it called? Was it job search? Because it does show that you know how to, at the very least, make a UI that's interactive. You can choose to do the bare minimum, that's up to you. Of course, this is for your benefit at the end. You can get 50% on this. Just find the bare minimum until you hit 50%. Or you can choose to make the ultimate effort to it. And, whatever it is, right? Because no one's going to ask if you got like 100% on your midterm project. You're not going to go to an interview and go, hey, I saw that you got 50% on your dynamic content. Should I hire you? No one's going to ever say that, right? They're just going to see your project and they go, oh, this looks interesting. Can you tell me how you did it? And you can tell them how you did it, then you're good. If you can't tell them how you did it, then you're screwed. But that's it, right? So every year I say this, which is that, I will show you examples, which is that this is your own portfolio piece. However, you can choose to do whatever you want on there, but make sure that you do follow the requirements, which is it's a brand advertisement that has a minimum of 5 interactions. You can do 20 for all I care, but minimum 5 interactions. And I will show you examples next lecture, next Friday, of past midterm projects. Now, I do want to give some discretion on this. Every year, I say the past year is like they've set a huge golden bar and you can't pass it. So when you're looking at these examples, don't go crazy and go, oh my gosh, I can't believe it. But then every year, some person choose to I'm going to pass that bar no matter what and spend like billions of hours on it. So when you look at the project, that is like super high standard. Of course, if you choose to want to break that high standard, again, that's up to you. But that's so that's a discretion on that. So that's the midterm. Any questions on this midterm project? It has to be an existing brand. You can't make your own brand. Or actually, if you choose to make your own brand, you have to make legit items for your brand. You can't say my brand sells circles and squares. I don't know, whatever, right? Like, you can't do something like that. Any questions on this? Any questions? You want to see examples? Not today.
Is it like website, not just a piece of can you show me the
No, we don't have time. Next lecture, you'll see. Don't worry. You'll see the examples next week. So your first task is to research. Oh, I should mention that, I guess. Your first task is to just have a document of all the of what you want to do and the items that you're promoting. You have that, then you're ready to start on any kind of draft. So at the very least, you should have a document to write down what's the brand and what are the items that you're trying to advertise. 10 of 10 of them. All right. So for the next few weeks, what we're going to do is we're going to reinforce our foundation, and we're going to be introduced to how we can organize our things properly with functions and whatnot as we reinforce the foundation. If we have time at the end, we get by this, I'll see if I can get an example up. But if not, that's just too bad. And in the favor of snow, let's make snow. Let's do snow. Let's do some good old fun snow. So again, I'm going to use SVGs just to do what we kind of go on top of what we did last time. We're going to make our snow in our SVG. Oh, I forgot. Let me get my screen up. You can do whatever kind of snow you want. Doesn't really matter. But just for fun, I'm gonna make some nice little shadows on my snow. You don't have to, just so you know. This is just for just to fool around, because you wanna have fun while doing this, right? You wanna be a little bit more creative. I'm gonna just for fun make my snowball. You remember how to save it as an SVG? No? Yes? No? Yes? Okay. Snow. And we're gonna save it as an SVG file. Whoa, someone broke something. That was loud. So we will have some good snow. And we'll put it on our HTML. So again, today is playing with functions and seeing the benefits of functions. Just as before. Again, I encourage you to use your own IDs and variable names, because that helps you connect your logic together with your own naming conventions. At some point, you'll you'll be able to just listen to what I want to happen on the screen, and you'll be able to come up with how you would execute it. If you're still struggling, feel free to copy along and follow along. But the best practice is always to try to customize some things on your own so that you have a good idea. If something is wrong, is it because of your naming convention, and you'll be able to connect things properly. So make sure you have your SVG so you can take it and put it into your image. And I do want to see the snow on the screen. Since my snow is white and my background is white, let's do some styling. CSR. We'll make our background color for our app zeros because it'll be black so we can see the snow. And a fixed position. Now the only reason I keep using fixed position is because we're doing like a single page no scrolling application. At some point, if you need scrolling in your application, for example, you might want to do the snow and then you want to be able to scroll beneath to see things like welcome to Snow Company, where we do snowmans for people for $30. Why build your own snowman when someone can build it for you? Things like that. Then you might need scrolling. Then you might not want to use a fixed position. You might want to use a actual scrollable position. A static or a relative one so you can scroll through it. So just to make sure you can see that snow. There's the snow. That's the great snow that I picked. And the snow is way too big. So what I'm gonna do instead is stylize the snow as well. I'll call it snows, because there'll be more than one later on, right? So dot snows is going to have a width of 50 pixel and a height of 50 pixel. We get a little small snow at the top. I can try again. All right. Taking out. Oh, oops. Pressed the wrong thing. No. No? Yes? That computer's not gonna use this. me know. If you're struggling, let me know. All right. Yeah, let's make it simple in the beginning. Let's just say that when we click on this snow, that the snow goes from wherever it is right now down 500 pixels or something like that. Because that's a snow falling, right? So from wherever it is right now down 500 pixels. So if that's the case, and we need to change where the snow is, what do we have to add in the CSS attribute for the snow? Absolute precision. Very good. And a left of 0 pixel and a top of 0 pixel. And we'll add some transition because we do want to see it fall. Transition will be left of, let's say, 1 second. And a top of 1 second for now. We don't know why 1 second, because maybe we'll change it later, but you start out with something at the very least. And you can do it on your own, right? You make it, click it, and then change it so that it goes from 0 to 500 pixel. Or try it out on your own. Do it. Give you like a minute or two. When you click on that snow, it will fall down. Our script. What do you write? Yeah, just have to go down. Like, no, but you can choose how far it goes. choose whatever you want. How far does it go? Yes. Just going down, right? Yeah. Right. So after the test, this should be easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Hopefully. Hopefully that's the case. If not, then we need some practices. So what do you do to make it fall? To make it so that it looks like it's falling, I should say. The top, you're just changing the top style when you click on it. All right. Good. That's it. All right. So from today onward, I'm gonna introduce you to something called, in a technical term, it's called a component. Every application is built up with things called components, and you'll hear this terminology a lot, especially in interviews. Components and modules, and you hear me repeat this over and over again. In an application, there are 3 items in there. They have, yes. I'll figure it out later. Let me finish talking first. So every application have components. A component has 3 items in there, and this is built by Facebook and Google when they decide to make their frameworks Angular and React. They wanted to make any application with web to be more efficient, and more like a real application than just a static site, which is what you're used to seeing, where the site just goes through different links. They go, we're gonna start separating every item into what we call components. And there are only 3 items in a component. Well, I shouldn't say only, but there are 3 main items in a component. Number 1, the UI. What's a UI? Oh my. What's a UI? User interface. What's a user interface then? An interface for the users. What's a user interface, right? Right here, when we look at this screen, what's the user interface? The snowball and the black screen. Anything that is an object on the screen is your user interface. So in this case, we have 2 user interfaces. We have the div over here and with the image. And part of it is the UI, and part of the CSS is the UI. So we have the UI. That's the first part. The second part is we have something called state, or in a more extended version called state variables. What are state variables, right? That's when your UI changes. If that variable changes, your UI changes. So throughout the entire application, your UI is going to detect a whole bunch of interactions. And after detecting the interactions, they're going to change the state, which is your variables. And by changing the state, your entire UI changes. Right. And then finally, the last part are functionalities in a component. Functionalities are functions in which changes your state variables. So you build functions for your UI. When do you execute the function? You will execute them when certain interaction happen or certain conditions happen. And by executing the function, you will change the state. And by changing the state, your UI changes along with it. That's a component. That's an interview question. So if someone asks you in an interview, that's what it is. Every component that every application that you ever make are built with components. And there's the UI, the state, and the function. So let's explore this, because this is how we should architect all our applications properly. So let's separate their section. Right now, nothing has to work properly, but at the very least, let's separate all our sections so we can see how it all looks like at the end. There's going to be state variables. There's going to be interactions, or in a more technical term, do you know what they're called? Listeners. And there will be the functions that changes the state. The UI that changes. The UI that will change. So your UI is always built in the beginning with HTML and CSS. That's your initial UI. Which UI is going to change when we click on it right now? Our very first one. The snow. So if you know that UI, that user interface is going to change, then that's one of your state variables, because you're going to change the state of that variable. So var snow is equal to document.query selector. And what do I do here? There's no ID.
Hash app, child image. So you get the ID and then you select the
Oh, you're talking about like that or something.
no,
Like that.
the child select the selector bracket.
Okay, let's make it simpler. What can I do here?
My snow. Has
Dot snows. Okay.
that's
If you want to get all the snows, I only have one snow right now. So why do I not do query selector all? Because I only have one snow. If I want to get every snow, what you're looking for is app dot child, right? Yes. But let's make it simple. Dot snows. That's the state that's going to change. Okay, so in our snow application, in the beginning, we're going to build these functions just for fun, just to get an idea what's going to happen on the screen. There's going to be snow on the screen, right? So what's going to happen to the snow? They'll move. So we'll have we'll make one called move snow for now. This function moves the snow. And we're just gonna forget everything else for now. So this is preparing it. It's always good to prepare an architecture if you're going to build an application. It doesn't have to do anything right now, but you're preparing it because you know that this function is going to move the snow. And when we say move the snow, really we're just changing its style. So right now, it has nothing, which is fine. And let's think about other things that could happen on my UI. What else would happen on my UI? Is this just going to move the snow and that's it? What else could happen in this application here? I mean, I didn't tell you exactly what's supposed to happen, but let's say you use your own imagination looking at this application. What should happen?
more snow falling down and at the end at the bottom snow going.
How many snow will fall down?
Depends on
Depends on
click.
click. So that means something else has to happen. What? Huh?
Should that up like just one, right? So
Right now it's one.
Yeah.
So what do we have to do so that we have more than one? Say again? Duplicate image. Duplicate image. Or in another case, let's call it create snow. Because we have to create a snow. This function creates a new snow image. Right. Again, you don't have to type anything inside. Just preparing yourself to do things that make sense later on. Right. So what do these functions do at the end? Right. Don't think about the actual terminology here, which is, oh, I'm going to create snow at the end. That's not what it really does at the end. What it does is it's going to change the UI somehow, right? Somehow it's going to change one of these states. Okay, so let's start with move snow. Move snow right now, we just want to make it go from 0 to, let's say, 500, right? So we're just changing the UI. The UI that we're changing is called snow, the state over there. So it'll be snow.style.top is equal to, let's say, 500 pixel for now. Now, the good thing about preparing functions is nothing gets executed until you execute the function. So I can type as many things on here as I want until I actually use and execute the function. It doesn't matter what you type, right? So that's a common mistake that a lot of people go. It's like, hey, I made the function. How come it's not moving 500 pixel down? Because you didn't execute it. If you don't execute it, then it doesn't matter what you type inside. It won't go through. And you execute it by actually typing the function out, like move snow. like so. Except if I do it here, it will just move without any interaction. It will just be there right away without any interactions in the beginning, right? So obviously I won't be doing it here. I'll be doing it through an interaction or listener. Now you can do it two ways. Either you can do the interaction by add event listener, or you can again do it the function way, which is fine, right? So just for a sake of difference, let's do it the function way this time now. Let's call it function click snow. And what happens when we click on the snow? We will move snow. And we will make it so that when we click on this, we'll execute click snow. Let me get this up. Make sure you have your inspect or developer tools on in case there are any errors. And then we test this out. And that's good. Right? So you may go, what's one question that you could come upon? Like, why click snow? What's the alternative if I don't do click snow there? Like, why don't I just type move snow, right? What's the difference? What's the difference between move snow and click snow over here? There's no difference because you're still running the same script, which is you're changing the top. You're just executing and executing. You're doubling it up. You're double dipping here. No, double dipping functions. But what's the advantage of doing it here? Because you might not only move the snow, you might do other things, right? So you can perform multiple at the same time if need be. So click snow will execute move snow, which will execute this script right here. All right, then let's do the next part. Let's actually not move the snow, but this time when we click on the snow, we're gonna make the snow somehow, or not make snow, create snow, create snow. So in create snow, we gotta create a new snow somehow, right? How do I create a new snow? Does anyone remember? Say again? The first equal? Oh, plus and equal, yes. What about what are other ways we can create a snow here? Because we have to create an image, right? What do we do? Do you remember how do we create a new image on the screen?
Create a new element.
Create a new element. So that's what we're doing. Var new snow is equal to document dot create element. And what's the element that we're creating? What are we creating here? SVG. What's the tag that we're creating? How about that? IMG image. Very good. Right. We created the image. And when we create snow, which UI are we changing? I just want to ask this. Like, which UI is actually changing on the screen? The UI. Which UI? Out of all the UIs that we have on the screen right now, which UI are we changing when we create snow? The div. Which div? the app div, right? So if that's a change that's gonna happen, that means we gotta put it as part of the state. So let's do that right now. App equals to document.query selector app. So everything is very logical. It should all connect together. We know that the app is going to change over time through interactions. Then that means I need to declare it as my changing state, as a variable for a changing state. Because after we create the snow, what do we want to do? We want to put it into the app div, right? Do you remember the syntax, the command, the function to put it into the app div? App.append child new snow. So app is the parent. The parent's gonna have a new child, which is an image. So when we click on the snow, it's gonna create a new snow for us. It's gonna create a new image for us. Let's see if it does that. Let's go to the elements part and see if it does that. A new child was born inside app, the parent. New child, new child, new child, new child, new child, right? Okay, what's wrong? Where's my snow? Where's my snow? I want my snow, but all I'm
So setting like, is it like hiding each other?
it's not in the same position. It just has nothing in there. What's wrong? What am I missing with my snow?
Source.
The source. Okay, let's change the source. How do I change the source? New snow source dot source. And what's the source? Question mark? The snow.svg. And if it's in an images folder, it'll be images/snow.svg. All right, let's see if we get snows. Oh, perfect. Now we have real snow.
Do we have to do dot slash img slash?
So just ing slash.
When I open the test
Oh, that's because you use.
but normally
Yeah. If you have. The code for the function, I don't understand. So I get this part document. We're one image. Okay. But you want to make it pretty, so whatever, like the syntax is, you fill in whatever element you put in. What is that? So that, yeah, is this the yeah. And that's the parent. So imagine you have to run more stuff inside this div. Yeah. Graph everything, right? Yeah. Everything inside is called yeah. Whatever. This parent is gonna put in a new child, which is a new image. Okay. And the new image type has a source attribute. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. This pretty much the sticker. Oh yeah. This is how you get a sticker question. Did you get that one?
Yes. Yeah, my this is 9:30 is long. I was like, you guys got this? Did you do your business bit on things?
Oh, it's on bot. You already made the connection.
Oh.
New There you go. Is your snow.svg inside it?
Oh.
That's good. Okay, so my snow over here is super huge. Why is it not like the first one?
It's just taking a picture directly.
Yes. Okay, so it doesn't have the class, right? So let's change the class. Let's use our class by using class name equals to, what's the class that I'm using? Snows. Okay, but now when I click on it, what happens? There's no new snow. Why? It's the same spot, right? So it's at the exact same spot. So that's what's going on. Now, before we move on, let's talk about multiple classes. What if I have multiple classes that I want to use? Right. If you have multiple classes, you can use something called class list, which looks like this. A new snow.class list, and then you can make it equal to an array bracket. We'll talk more about that. You probably learned it already a little bit. Snows, and then comma, the next class, class number 2, etc., etc., etc. And you can add as many classes you want in there. Make sense? Make sense or no? Yeah. So the next part then is that what do you want to do? What do you want to do after you create the snow? What do you want the snow to do after you create it? You want it to move, right? But how do you know which snow to move? That's the problem right now. We don't know which snow to move. But technically, if we want to fall, what do we type after we create snow? We would type new snow dot snow dot style dot top is equal to 500 pixel or something like that. Correct? Because new snow is the item that was created that didn't exist in the UI before. So we couldn't have gotten it before. We could not have gotten it in the state variable before since it's new, right? So this is the only way we can do it. But I don't want to do it like that because that defeats the purpose of making the function move snow in the beginning. It wouldn't make it, because later on, what if I have multiple things I need to, multiple different kinds of snow that I have to move? Then that would, I have to repeat this. And if I have more things, like more movements than just top, then I have to repeat this a billion times. Or X amount of times of the type of snow that I have. So we don't want to do that. We want to actually use move snow. But then we run into a limitation here. How can we move the right snow? It's not this snow. Why is it not this snow over here? This snow is the one that's on the screen right now. We don't want to move that one. We want to move the one that was just created. So to do something like that, we want to pass this reference over to this function over here so it knows exactly which node to move. So to do that, we're like, okay, we have this new variable that was just created. I want to give it to this function. So inside the parenthesis, you go, this is what I want to give to this function right now. Because I need them to move this snow over here. So by typing things, I should say, by typing data inside the parenthesis, you're passing data over to that function. But you have no variables here to store that data that was passed over. This image tag was passed over, but there's no variable. You want to have a variable to store it, and these are called arguments in a function. So here I'm going to use the letter S as my argument. Basically, this is saying var S is equal to new snow. That's what's happening over here. I'm passing the data over, and I'm saying var S is equal to new snow. And then the snow that I'm changing is this variable. Okay, so we went from, so this over here is the exact same thing as typing this down here, except you pass that information to this new variable, or we should call it new argument. And then you might go, ys. Ys. Yes, I guess so. But technically, you can use anything here, because you're just making a new variable name. You can go boobly bob if you wanted to. And then it'll be boobly bob, and it'll be boobly bob. Right. So you can do anything on that argument. It just, I chose S, like you said, because S stands for snow. Because with this, then you don't only have to move snow. You can go do something like this. Move snow. And instead of a snow that you're moving, because snow is just an image, right? It's just an element on the screen. What if I do something like this? Then what happens? What happens if I type something like this? Then that's the same as saying app.style.top is equal to 500 pixel. That's because I pass in the app over there. This becomes app, and that becomes the argument. Or let's see what happens if I do that. If I click on this, my whole app went down by 500 pixels. Right, it does not have to be snow. It's whatever element you pass over, that's the item that's being moved. But we just want to move the new snow that just came down. And you can see that all the snow that got made is now at 500 pixel. I guess I should ask, does this make sense to you or no? Yeah. Okay, you make sense to you, but does it make sense to everyone else?
Can you repeat the argument?
So argument is like sending information over to the other function.
Do you have to assign, like, for example, the app in the argument? You have to assign app equals top value, or is it
No.
the app?
This is just a comment. If you don't type anything here, it doesn't matter.
Would it grab app that we document like here?
Yes, you have to. assign it first up here, right? Or else it doesn't know. So if you try to type move snow without an argument inside, right? Let's see what happens if I do that. I'm gonna press that. You'll see an error in the console. It says something called cannot read property style of undefined. And the reason for that is when we press move snow, we are looking for something to change the style with, right? Right now, what are we changing the style of? Nothing. So that's the same as saying nothing question mark or nothing dot style dot top is equal to 500 pixel like that. And what happens if you change nothing dot style? It dies because it's an error. You can't change nothing dot style because you didn't put the argument over. Because right now I'm saying that pass something over so I can change the style. If the item that you're passing doesn't have a style to change, then it doesn't work. For example, does 1 have a style to change? Can it be 1 dot style dot top? Is there such thing? No such thing, right? Can my friend, can there be a my friend dot style dot top? You're like, is this a trick question? Can there be a my friend dot style dot top? No such thing because it's not an element, right? So that's why we have to pass an element over, which is, that's why I did app. But in this case, it would be the image, the new image that was created.
So passing it into argument allows us to create more actions or functions within the same brackets.
It allows you to
Type move snow and then empty and then s dot style dot top equals blah blah, which is move snow s and then bracket to create new snow.
well, you can, like, you won't even be able to move snow without the argument here. Like, you will have to just do this instead. Huh? Okay. Okay. All right. Okay. So, I mean, the problem for this is that it's a new concept again. Organize. Like I said, the first part of function is organizing it, because right now it's organized in 2 different places. One is in move snow and one is in create snow. So if I click on this snow and no new images is created on screen, then which part would be wrong in my script? It would be under the create snow function because there's nothing new created, right? If I click on the snow and there's no new and there's a new snow but it's not the 500 pixel, then which part is wrong on my script? It would be under move snow because it's not moving. But it's still not moving, right? You can see that. When you click on it, it creates the snow and it goes all the way down to 500. It's not actually transitioning. So I know that my move snow doesn't actually fully work right now. And there's a reason for that, because it's happening too fast. The transition needs some time before they can detect that there is a change. It changes way too fast. So we have to set a delay so that it changes after, like, let's say 1 millisecond. So to set a delay, do you know how to set a delay? I want to wait like a millisecond before I change the style. A delay. Do you know how to set a delay? Set interval. Set interval is good, but what we want is set timeout. Set interval happens over and over again. Set timeout will only happen 1. It'll delay for 100. It'll delay for 100 milliseconds because it's the same as set interval, but it only happened once. And after delaying for 100 milliseconds, we're gonna take the snow that was newly created and change the style to the top. So now we should have something that resembles of a snow moving down. This is making it wrong. This is what you need.
So this is like the time, right? Delaying time.
Yeah. So 100 milliseconds. I mean, if you really want to test out this delay, you can always try a full second delay. Right? And you can see that the delay, the snow will start falling only after 1 second. So 1,000, 1,000. Right. So that's the delay. Now the problem with this is that after a while, the snow stacks up and it will be like 100 to 200 to 300. And we don't want that. After it finishes falling, we want to remove the snow. So we're going to have a function called remove snow. This function removes the snow. So you can see that we're trying to organize everything in a package architecturally. And when do we want to remove the snow?
When it gets down.
How long does it take before it goes all the way down? Say again.
Yeah.
1 second.
Yeah,
1 second, right? Because it takes 1 second to finish the transition. So we need to delay 1 second again before we remove the snow. So after we change the top to 500 pixel, we just do another delay. Right, so we do another delay with set timeout. And this time, what's the interval for a delay? What's the number here? 1000. 1000 milliseconds is equivalent to 1 second. And we're going to remove snow. But what snow are we removing? How do we know what snow are we removing? Which snow? I mean, like, there's like so many, right? Which snow are we removing?
But the first one,
The one that's falling. Which one is the one that's falling? The previous, the new snow one, right? So new snow was sent to move snow with an argument called S. So now you're gonna send S to remove snow. I'm gonna name this something else and not S. I'm gonna call it snow to remove for fun. You can name it anything, whatever you want. But basically here, you're going var snow to remove is equal to whatever is sent over. And we're gonna have to take a child away from a parent. What's the parents that we're taking a child away from? App. And to remove a child is literally the word remove child. And the child that we're removing is the snow to remove, the image that we're removing inside our app. So let's see what happens. Now we can create unlimited snow if you wanted to, because they're all going to get removed anyway. So you need to pass in the snow. So you want to remove.
so you said another.
Yeah. So you want to send the snow that you want to remove over, right?
Yes.
So what's the snow that you're sending? S. S.
Oh.
That's the snow that's being changed right now.
Oh.
So like that. So which you want to send the snow that you're going to remove. S, right? S. Because that's the snow that's being changed right now.
Yeah.
And that's the one that you're going to remove.
Okay.
this typing that is the equivalent of that. You with this, that.
It's the same as when we use S.
Oh, you just changed it.
Put S into a parameter. That is like, if you put a parameter, it's basically the same thing as setting a variable. So your question is Passover part. Okay.
All right. Okay, so don't type anything and just go through and look at the screen and try to understand as much of the explanation as you can. Now, the more you learn about function, the more complicated it gets. That's normal. But let's go over the alternative. If we haven't made three functions called move snow, create snow, and remove snow, what would it look like? Right? It would be, let's say this doesn't exist. Okay, don't type what I'm typing. You want to focus on understand this instead. It would look like this. It would be new snow dot style dot top with the delay. Okay, I'm not gonna type the delay, but it would. Okay, you know what? I will type the delay. It will take this, and it will look something like this, right? And instead of s, you would be the new variable that you created, which is new snow. And instead of remove snow, it would be this down here. And the one, what are we removing? New snow, right? This is the equivalent of what we just did with move snow and remove snow. Okay, so this doesn't exist. This doesn't exist. This does the exact same thing of what we just did over there. It's the exact same thing. The only difference of what we did here is we separated it out. Because create snow and moving the snow, for me, I want to be more organized. I want to be able to move the snow that I created. I want to be able to move a snowman that I created. Or maybe I want to be able to move rains I created. So let's separate it out. Let's put this out somewhere else. So instead of doing this, let's say, okay, I'm just going to have a function called move snow. It's going to have a function called move snow. And it'll look something like this, right? New snow.style.top. Originally. I'll take whatever that is, and I'll put it right here. So take it out, put it in the function. But now there's a problem. What the heck is new snow? There's no new snow here because it wasn't set in the beginning. There's no such thing as new snow because it was only created afterwards. It doesn't exist in my original UI, so I have no access to something called new snow. Well, then you're screwed because you have no access to it. There needs to be a way where I can have access in the function to the new items that was created. Like, for example, when you when you go and buy something in a grocery, you have the original price. But if you add all the prices together, you add your meats and drinks and whatever together, you have a new price that you have to pay. Right? Where was that price in the beginning? There is no price in the beginning that has all the added amounts of your groceries. They have to type in the new price and pass it over to your receipt. Right? Because how do they know? How does the receipt know what numbers to use? They can't use the original price on there. They have to use your total price on your groceries. So how do I know what snow to use? Well, I gotta pass on this new created item, like your total amount of your groceries, to the function that's gonna do the calculation later on. So after passing it on, you need to have access to it. And that's where you create your arguments, which is your new variable. I call it S because it stands for snow. And this new snow is now replaced with the word S because now it exists. Is there a question? Yes?
Yeah, for remove snow, what's the point of adding snow to remove inside the parameters? Is it just like a placeholder?
So in the same way, afterwards, I want to remove the snow, right?
Yeah.
So instead of doing this, I want to remove the snow. Remove snow.
Because in there, we just put S and remove snow, right? So
Yes.
what's the point of having snow to remove?
So if I don't do that, what will I type here? What child would I be removing? Right. So if you type S here, it should be S here, right? Or it should be new snow. But what's new snow? It doesn't exist. What about S? What about S? It doesn't exist. No such thing, right? So what you need to do is again pass in a new item, which is what I call snow to remove. You can name it S again if you want, then it'll be okay, right? Or you can name it again dog man, whatever, right? Then you're gonna remove dog man. You can name it anything you want. It's just a way to say this is the variable that I'm gonna store what was passed over. And again, the whole point is to be more organized. Now I can have a separate function. Maybe I don't want to remove snow next time. I want to remove a raindrop. Then I use the same function to remove a raindrop. Maybe I want to remove the sun. Then I use the same function to remove the sun. Because you're just passing an element over to remove. In the same way, if you're going back to the grocery item, you added new items on your grocery list, you pass in the total. After passing the total, you pass in what it costs after tax. You do your tax calculation and you pass in what it costs after tax, right? So you have numbers that doesn't exist in the grocery store. It only exists after your calculation in the cashier.
So whatever name that you give it,
yeah,
that becomes the constant, and the function itself becomes the variable, like because you can change the function, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
So every time I type in that same name into a different function, it'll have the same.
It'll work the same.
It'll work the same.
Yeah. For example, if I want to remove the app, right? Then you would go remove snow app like that, right? Because that becomes the element to remove. But this won't work because app is the parent. I don't know if that makes sense then.
Yeah.
But anyways. So basically that is the idea of using arguments in a function. We'll do more practice. This is the first, I don't know if it's the first time, maybe not, but this is probably the first round to, have you learned this? You learned this, right? A little bit? Maybe? Kind of? No? Well, it's kind of the first time you experience organizing. Like the whole purpose of this is to organize them in 3 separate packages, or 4 in this case. This makes like you look at this application, it makes sense to you, doesn't it? There's click snow. When you click on the snow, there's move snow. The snow moves. There's create snow when you create a new snow, and there's remove snow because you're gonna remove the snow, right? So when you create a snow, you're gonna move that snow, and you're gonna remove the snow. Oh man, that's a big tongue twister right there.
So initially in the remove snow, we have to assign something in the parameters, or else it won't be able to take in S when you call it in remove snow, right?
Yes.
That's my understanding.
Yes. So if you don't put anything in here,
It can't take anything once you call it into remove snow. So it can't take S, basically.
if you don't have this,
Let's say you don't have anything in remove snow, and then right, so you delete that.
Yeah.
And then you call it in the move snow function, right?
yeah. If I don't, then I can't have the S inside.
You can't, like, it won't be able to take in the S, right? Even if you put it.
Yeah, you can put it inside, but you can't. You don't have access to it.
Right. Okay.
That's the problem, right? You don't have You put it inside, but you're not. You don't have access to it because you didn't say declare a variable to
So
it.
essentially,
But technically, you do have access to it. But that's a. I don't want to overcomplicate this issue.
essentially, snow remove is just like a placeholder. It's like you set a space for something to be put on later on.
Yes. Yes. So you're passing information over for the sake of being nice and neat. And the good thing about this is, again, it's easy to debug. This is actually a very important thing in your interviews. Why do you use functions? It's easy to debug. For example, when I click on the snow, if no new snow appears, which function is screwed up? Good. If a new snow appears and it doesn't move, so which function is screwed up? Oh, okay, there you go. And if it moves but it doesn't go away, then which function is screwed up? So it's easy to debug, right? You can look at the interaction on the screen and know exactly which part it is that you have to look for the problem. And that's another big benefit of this. Okay, so we'll have more chances to play around with all these little functions. But let's keep going. This is a really bad snow application. Let's actually make this a good snow application. The first thing is it only goes 500 pixels. We want to go through the entire screen. How do we do that? That's right. Then we know inside move snow, we have to change it so that it's not 500, but it goes to the entire screen. Do you remember how to get the entire screen's height? The entire window's height? Window.inner height plus pixel. The top is going to become inner height. So it goes all the way down, all the way down. Next item. Next item is, what's wrong with my snow? It's only one space, right? How can I make it so that it's not only coming from that one spot? How can I make it so that it's like every spot? Change the left. Oh, very good. Who said that? You get an A. So when we create the snow, or when we move the snow, that's your choice, your own functionality. But I'm going to do it with create snow. When we create the snow, its initial left isn't going to be 0. It's going to be a number that's randomized based on how big your window is. Okay? So let's say, what did I do? Let's say over here, what's the style that I'm changing? What's the style? Left, new snow.style.left. How do I randomize a number and round it? Map.random. And it's gonna multiply with how big my window is or how wide my window is. Do you know what it is? Window, the inner width. Nice. And then how do I round this number? Do you remember? Math dot round. I'm gonna round this whole number. And what else am I missing after I get the number? What do I have to add in here so that it actually goes to the left properly? What am I missing? Pixels. Very nice. The pixels. Okay, well, let's go. And now you have some kind of snowfall. But it looks pretty ugly because the snow starts at like this weird place. So what should we do so that it doesn't start at that weird place? Maybe we want to start off screen. How do we start off screen? What would we change so that it starts off screen? A negative pixel for what? For the top. Okay, so new snow.style.top equals to, let's say, negative 100 pixel or negative 50 or negative 200. I don't know. It depends on what you want out there. All right, let's see. That is some fast snow. That's like meteor rocks coming down. How can I make it slower? Transition. Okay, so let's change the transition from 1 second to, let's say, 5 seconds. The top, right? 5 seconds for the top. 5 seconds for the top. Okay, so let's see. There. But what's, oh man, what's going on? My snow disappears halfway. Why? So there it goes out too quick, all right? Because we say after 1 second you remove the snow. So how many seconds are we looking for now? 5 seconds. So we go, okay, after 5 seconds it removes the snow. Let's see. See if it's removing. Oh, there we go. Now, the snow, they're all the same size. We don't want all the same size. We want a different size for each snow. So same thing. But what are we multiplying by this time? So let's say the dimension. Var dimension is equal to math.round, math.random. What's the dimension? What's the biggest snow that we have? I mean, that's up to you. But what do we have right now as the biggest snow? 50. So we multiply by 50. And we're going to change the width of the snow to the dimension plus pixel. And the same for the height. Okay, so that should be a random size for my snow. Let's see if that does that. middle bar S. You still have to pass the S over. Because S doesn't exist. This one, no, it doesn't. This one. It's uncharged already. S doesn't exist outside. It only exists inside. It doesn't exist outside. So even if you name it S over here, and you use S here without argument, it still doesn't have S. Because you can't see what's inside or outside. Now, here's the beauty of functions. Right now we created 4 different functions and they work perfectly, correct? So, my create snow works, right? I can do a create snow and it will fall down randomly at a certain left and it will remove itself. So, if I want to create 2 snow at once, what do? Literally just type create snow one more time and that will create 2 snow. And you know that it will perfectly work because you built it into the function already. The function works by executing this function. Everything else that's associated with it will work. Otherwise, there could be a lot of hassle of going through each line of code to create 2 of them. Because if we didn't put it into a function, what happens is we have to copy all this, and copy all this, and paste it 2 times, right? Or if you want to create 10 snow, then how many times do you have to paste it? 10 times. And what happens when you change the name of the SVG? Then you're screwed. That's what happens. Then you have to change it 10 times, right? And so now, each one creates 2 snows. Or, maybe later. Or 5 at the same time. Right. Or 5 at the same time. Or, since it's already inside its own function, maybe we want to make it so that when we move our mouse in the app, we will perform the snow creating on mouse move equals to create snow, like so. Right? So now, whenever I move on the mouse, it will create snow on the screen. So everything is built inside the function for the purpose of flexibility, organization, and testing purposes for later on. And changing, right? If I change an SVG, where do I change? What do I need to change? Where do I need to change? If my SVG name is not snow anymore, where do I have to change?
New server source.
Exactly. Under create snow, I just have to change one space. And wherever the interaction is using this create snow, it will all change automatically, right? If I have to change the dimensions because it's not the whole screen, it's only half a screen now. Where do I change? Again, in create snow. Right? So there's a lot of things you can think about that the functions will help perform and organize.
Is there any way we can make it like do it or does it have to have algorithms?
You know how to do it. So then it does it.
Like a loops. Is that called a while loop or something? Or can you use a different kind of loop? I feel like I could probably do it.
Maybe you want to make it create snow every second. How would you do that?
Just have a create snow interval.
Yeah, so in an interval that happens that creates snow every second.
So yeah, if you like create snow
Right? So you can just set an interval to create snow every second. Right? So you can do a lot of things, right? That's an interaction listener. You can go set interval, and then every 1 second you will create snow. Or maybe you want to create 5 snow every 1 second. I don't know. Or maybe every 500 millisecond. 1 second is too slow. Maybe every 200 millisecond, right? Because so you can perform the same kind of function in any kind of listeners and whatnot. And you can watch your screen go crazy. And then finally, the last little bit is let's create a ground. Let's have a new piece of UI again. Let's have a ground for this. We'll just use a div for the ground. So we have a new piece of UI now. And this div, we'll call it ground, is going to be, what's the word for it? It's going to represent the snow that's building up on the ground. So if that's the case, what's the background color for my ground? Oh, very nice. Let's do that. Ground background color is gonna be white. And how wide is my ground, I should say? What's the width of my ground? 100 view width. Because it's gonna take up the whole screen. And what's the height? In the beginning, what should it be? Let's just say 1 for now. 1 pixel. We have like a mini ground. But we gotta change its position a bit. The position is still going to be fixed. It's gonna be at left, but it's not gonna be at the top, right? Or is it? Where should it be? At the bottom of 0. Alright, so you can barely see it, but it's right there, that little white line at the bottom. So here's the question for you. When does the ground build up?
When it reaches the bottom,
When the snow reaches the bottom. When we say build up, we're really just changing the UI, right? Which UI is being changed? The ground. So it's a state variable that we should declare because you know that UI is going to change. So ground is equal to document.query selector ground. And we're going to be changing its height. So let's make one for its height as well. Let's call it GH for ground height. And what's the first number for the ground height? What's the first number? 1, right? So that's the 1 pixel. Now, looking at these functions right now, where do we start building up the ground? How do we know when it reaches the bottom? After 5 seconds. Well, is there a function that tells us exactly when it reaches the bottom? Which function tells us when it reaches exactly the bottom? Remove snow, because when it reaches, this is going to happen, right? So now we can go on and add on to this function, and we're going to build up the ground. We're going to go GH. What do I do so that it goes higher and higher every single time as snow is removed? What should I do? Is equal GH plus 1 maybe for now? You can go plus plus, whatever, but later on you'll see why we don't want to go about plus plus. And then we're gonna change, what are we gonna change for the ground so that it looks like it's building up? The height, good. So ground is the UI that we're changing, and the height is gonna equal to GH plus pixel, like so. But you'll notice that this is ridiculous. Because very fast, your snow is gonna become. Alright. Why is it going so fast? So maybe you don't want to go that fast. Maybe you don't want to be maybe you don't want to add 1 to it because 1 is too fast, right? What would you add so that it's slower? Okay, let's try that. 0.1. Let's see if it goes slower. Goes a little bit slower, so that's good. And then you might want a limit to it so that it doesn't go full screen. Maybe after a certain amount of height, you want it to stop. So how would I do that? How would I do that? 4. How do I condition it so that it stops after a certain amount of height? If the GH is what? Smaller than what's the height that we want? Maybe 300. If it's smaller than 300, then we keep increasing the height. Otherwise, nothing happens. Then now it has a limit of 300. I'm just gonna try to get it in quick. Glomp. Faster. Okay, it's actually very slow. It's not even close to 300. It's like 100 right here. 200. Get me the 300. All right, getting there. It's getting there. Show me 300. Is it already more than 300? That's the question. Did I mess that up? Where's the ground? I want the ground. Or is that 300? Yeah, no, there you go. So now it stops after 300. Right, no matter, it will stay there. Or wait, no, wait. Can't even see anymore. Is it getting bigger or not? No, it's stuck there. It's an optical illusion that it looks like it's going higher, but it's not actually going higher. Okay, that's pretty much it of what we're trying to do today. Let's review one more time of what happened over here. It's not that we created snow. These are all just illusions, right, of snow falling. What we do have is 3 pieces of UI. The first UI is the div. The second UI is the image, which is essentially useless right now because the snow is falling by itself. And the third UI is the ground. They all change somehow. Well, not snow anymore, but in the beginning it does. So they become our state variables. These are the UI that's going to change when we do interaction with it. And we have the functions that changes the state. You'll notice that every single function here updates the UI. How does the create snow update the UI? It puts a new image tag into the, which UI does it put it in? The app, right? Well, how does the move snow changes the UI? It changes the top of the image from 0 to however big your window is. And then how does remove snow changes the UI? It changes the ground height to another number, and it takes whatever is inside the app right now and removes it. All right. So each function changes the UI. It's not that we made snow disappear, but each function here changes the UI. And the reason we put it in these functions, the very first reason is to be efficient and to organize. Because right now we know exactly what each function does, and if something goes wrong, we know where to go. If I want to move the snow, not only up and down, but left and right, I can go to move snow and start adjusting that so that it goes left and right as well. If I want to change the ground so that it changes color, because I have rain as well, right? Then I would go to my remove snow, and that's where I adjust the ground. If I want to create more snow, or more than just one snow, or more details to a snow, then I could go create snow and put more details there. They all have their own purposes, and when you organize them properly, it makes a lot of sense. And also, as you see later on, you can recall the function multiple times because they're already organized and properly executed. You can execute the function at different places. Mouse move on the app, click on the snow, or maybe every 200 millisecond. Or maybe when you press back, they won't let you go back and the snow comes down. I don't know, whatever, right? Any kind of interactions that you have, you can reuse the function if need be. And these are all very important concepts that you move forward with. So this is kind of the foundation, the beginning of today. As we move forward, we build functions, and we build functions to change the UI. And we try our best. Right? There's no perfect ones, but we try our best to separate as many things as possible so that it makes sense. Because later on, it might not be create snow. It might be create item, and I put a snow argument on there for snow.svg, right? It might be, now I put rain for creating rain SVG, right? So you can see that it expands and expands onward. Okay, any questions? If not, then that's it. There's a tutorial.